Hello again, my friends. Welcome to another edition of The Week in Wrestling. I am Bloody Bill Vox, and I am your host. We are here to talk about The Week in Wrestling. What an intro that was. That was fantastic. Congratulations. Good stuff. We're recording this one on a Sunday because last night there was a pay-per-view. So anytime there's a pay-per-view or a PLE, so next weekend will be the same. We won't do The Week in Wrestling on Saturday. We'll do it on Sunday because Survivor Series is next Saturday, November 25th. Speaking of Survivor Series, if you're a fan of the Challenge 64 stuff, big day yesterday. In fact, I was so wrapped up in other stuff, I forgot to post links, images, and all that jazz, but it's all available out on YouTube now. Superstars of Wrestling, Wrestling Challenge, and the first Survivor Series of the Challenge 64 universe, and it was a controversial one. That's right, indeed. Yeah, it was a controversial ending. Controversial ending indeed. But it's all available there now. But here and now, we are going to talk, like I said, The Week in Wrestling. And watch it on YouTube, listen on Spotify, bonus feed, Dropkicks and Joysticks. Just a heads up to those of you who were not here for the pregame. You could be a part of the pregame on Twitch when it records. Typically, it will be Saturdays, 10 a.m.-ish. But like I said, on a PLE or pay-per-view week, we'll do it on Sundays, 10 a.m.-ish. But for those of you who are not here for the pregame, feeling a little bit under the weather, feeling a little foggy-brained, so we're going to do our best to motor through this discussion a little bit this week. So if it feels rushed, it's because I'm trying to make the most of my time here. I'm not feeling good. Been feeling junky the last few days, and late last night, my throat started to feel a little rough. Woke up this morning with a cough. The cough seems to be a little subsided now that we've had some hot liquid from our unofficial sponsors, Dunkin'. Dunkin', you listening out there, you can sponsor me. It literally for a cup of coffee a day, bruh. For a cup of coffee a day, bruv. I'm going to say it like the new signing. AEW, bruv. Was quite angry in his signing. It was very weird. But let's go ahead and start things off with talking about Full Gear. Since that was last night, it's mostly fresh on my mind. Now, I don't have live TV. So keeping up with the weekly product is tough. WWE has a Hulu agreement. So when I can, I do watch the abridged versions of Raw and SmackDown on Hulu, and then NXT posts the next day on Peacock. I don't always get to watching everything though, just because I do my other watching of stuff like I've been doing the Survivor Series watch long, and I've been watching the old school events on Peacock, and then I like to throw in some movies. I've been watching back some old Three Stooges. So I don't always get to new stuff. I like my archival stuff. I'm getting to that point in my life where I don't tune into new stuff. I tune into the old stuff. Is kind of what I was getting at. Like I watch all the archival stuff. So I don't always get to watch in the current stuff. But this week we did watch AEW's Full Gear, but I haven't watched anything recently. So I know some of what's going on. Like MJF is like 98% of their show right now. From what I can see and gather, and based on what I saw last night, he's a major part of the show, but his part in the show last night was very confusing. So MJF's story starts last night with the 0-hour tag team title match where he was defending the Ring of Honor tag team championships against the Guns. And if I understand things correctly, or maybe this is just my assumption, MJF has found himself in a situation where when he has to defend the belts, they're not letting him defend them on his own anymore, so he has to find partners. I'm not sure, but either way, in this case, the partner was Samoa Joe, because Adam Cole is out with his ankle injury. So the partner is Samoa Joe in this case, and the price for Samoa Joe is a shot at the AEW World Championship as long as MJF leaves Full Gear as champion. Okay, that's a fair deal. So they get through the match, and then after the match, the Guns do a beatdown on MJF. Samoa Joe's already gone because they shook hands. They made their agreement. We're good. MJF celebrating. Samoa Joe took off. The Guns beat up MJF and injure his knee. So, all right, cool. We're running our injury angle. We're setting up the odds for the babyface to overcome. All right, cool. You still got me. MJF stretchered out. He's getting thrown into the stretcher. Now, at the end of this tag team match, something I just kind of glossed over, but is important to the story here. Adam Cole comes out. Adam Cole comes out on crutches, runs the distraction that allows MJF and Samoa Joe to get the victory. So Adam Cole is there at ringside watching this attack go down. He can't do anything about it because he's on crutches. He's got his own ankle injury. Anyway, back to the ambulance. MJF is being stretchered into the ambulance. He calls out to Adam and says, "Don't let them take my title. Don't let them take my title." And so now we've got Adam Cole in the conflict where what's he going to do to save MJF's AEW World Championship? So they come out, they being Tony Schiavone, I was about to say Khan, Tony Schiavone, Bryce Remford, the referee, and Jay White. And we're about to announce that Jay White, by default, is the new AEW World Champion. The match has been canceled. Right as they're about to do it, Adam Cole comes crutching out and announces that he has talked to Tony Khan. And this is where we start going off the rails. He has talked to Tony Khan and already has received the approval. Mind you, this man is weeks removed from double ankle surgery, still on crutches. He has received the approval to replace MJF in the main event. So now our new main event is Adam Cole on crutches against Jay White for the AEW World Championship. Now, two things are going through my brain at this point as to what's really going to happen. Because clearly nobody is allowing Adam Cole into the ring. But the very idea that we sold that Tony Khan would clear Adam Cole on crutches and in a walking boot to be in the main event of Full Gear, what a weird move. I don't understand it. Why would you send the idea that your boss doesn't care about his workers? Because Tony, in story, obviously, it's not reality, but in the story, we're saying that Tony Khan doesn't care about Adam Cole because he cleared him to defend the AEW World Championship. Holy shit. Okay. So we get down to match time. Now I'm getting worried at this point. Oh, and the other thing going through my mind is that Adam Cole is going to slug Samoa Joe in somehow as the replacement. And Samoa Joe is going to be the reason that MJF kept his belt. But I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because let's say MJF was really injured. He didn't look injured in that tag team match. He seemed just fine. So what's our end game here? Obviously, the end game is the ambulance coming from the back. I love how they always pipe the noise so loud as if you would ever hear it that loudly in the arena when it's at a back bay. But anyway, right as things are getting ready to start, here comes MJF, hijack the ambulance, typical babyface style. I'm like, okay, this was a weird way to get here. Instead of, I don't think we needed the Adam Cole part. I get it. He was there. Let's get him involved. But I don't think we needed the Adam Cole part. I think we could have done the whole will he or won't he. Could have had Tony Schiavone, Jay White, Bryce Remford right at the main event come to the ring and say, unfortunately, everybody, the last match that we just had is going to be the unofficial main event of Full Gear because, as you all saw earlier tonight, MJF was taken away by ambulance. He is not cleared to compete as he has not returned to the arena. So, unfortunately, this main event is canceled, and your new AEW World Heavyweight Champion is Jay White. And then, again, assuming MJF was injured, you could have been, but Jay White's going to defend the AEW World Championship against Samoa Joe. Hey! But obviously, MJF's not injured. So you could have done that whole, we're going to cancel the match segment in the main event. And then you could have done the ambulance thing. Here comes MJF hobbling to the ring. The match itself was fine. Telling the story of MJF and the bum wheel, but it dragged out for way too long. Way too much hokey pokey going on. In the end, in my opinion, good match. Too much. Too much put on top. MJF, in my opinion, got made to look a little weak in this storyline because the MJF that we've become accustomed to before he became buddies with Adam Cole would have snatched that belt back in a week. He wouldn't have allowed somebody to be walking around with his championship for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, however long Jay White had it stolen. And then poor Jay White. He just looks incompetent after last night, in my opinion. No less of a wrestler. He just looks a little incompetent. Because with all of the deck stacked against MJF the way that it was, Adam Cole leaving the Dynamite ring on the fucking apron, and Jay White gets it, clobbers him with belts. And I get it, what we're trying to do, but it was too much. The babyface overcame too much, in my opinion. And ultimately, MJF gets the win, 1, 2, 3. And he retains, and he's still champion, and he's hobbling, and I didn't catch the press conference. But I guess he came out with one of his usual profanity-filled tirades, but this one was more of an emotional, I love pro wrestling thing. So I'll probably have to give the media scrum a watch later on. Usually I do watch those things, but my friend that came over to watch the event wanted to see what Stadium Stampede looked like in the video game. So showed him around that, and he had bought the game, Fight Forever, and he played it for like 3 hours. I guess it crashed when he was creating his character, and it pissed him off enough that he never picked it up again. So I showed him that and the exploding barbed wire death match, both finishes, by the way, so we could see them. But yeah, anyway, so I didn't watch that scrum, so I didn't see that, but I just feel like it was too much. So now for MJF, the story there seems to be that he's going to move on to defending against Samoa Joe. I assume that's going to happen at World's End, which is taking place on Saturday, December 30th, which means we'll be doing a podcast on New Year's Eve, baby. Nice little New Year's Eve podcast. That'll be fun. But I assume that's where we go from here. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, my feeling, Samoa Joe has to win. The man threw down the Ring of Honor TV title. Not threw it down, but vacated it. Because that's not the belt he came here for. But I don't like the idea that we build up these guys sometimes and then we don't pull a trigger. I don't want to see Joe get built up to being the next AEW World Champion and then he goes off a cliff. It felt like he could do that before when he faced MJF, but he still had the TV title. And I get it. Samoa Joe is above the Ring of Honor brand. Essentially, Ring of Honor is going to become the developmental for AEW. That's just what Ring of Honor has evolved into. It's not going to be the Ring of Honor we all grew up on. So in my book, he's above Ring of Honor. But I just don't like the idea, personally, of him throwing down one title and then not seizing the other. MJF's had a great reign. 365 days, what he's approaching or what he hit last night, I can't recall. But it's been a year. Could be time for a change. We didn't see any progression in the Devil storyline last night. I thought maybe that was, maybe we were going to see the Devil unveiling as part of this whole MJF injured story, but nothing happened there. And maybe something was supposed to happen there. Something to consider is we didn't see any involvement out of Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, Taven and Bennett. You can kind of assume they might be involved in some way, shape, or form. Just because of their ties with Adam Cole and all that, but Roderick Strong got dumped on his head pretty nasty on Friday night. I think he was taking on Will Ospreay. Collision, Rampage, whatever was live on Friday. In a disaster, a massacre against SmackDown. It was like 2.2 million on SmackDown to 251,000 on whatever AEW program was on TV. Like, holy shit. Yeah, talk about a massacre. Oof. Oh, baby. What a massacre. Speaking of Will Ospreay, I'm going to jump right into that. So he was the big signing, the blockbuster signing. I was making jokes that it was Buff Bagwell in my living room with my buddy. I go, people, look at the word play here. Blockbuster. There's only one blockbuster in wrestling. It's Buff Bagwell. And so my buddy goes, no, it's not Buff Bagwell. I go, what do you mean? He was like, oh, he got arrested this week. DUI. Shit. So that's bummer news. But anyway, Will Ospreay is the big signing. Okay, cool, awesome. Apparently there was WWE interest, and obviously they didn't win the battle. They didn't get to sign him, and I didn't think they ever really would. Honestly, I don't know that a Will Ospreay would work well in the WWE system. Not to say that he isn't good enough to be there. Don't mix those words up. I don't think his athleticism and his charisma and his attitude, not saying he has a bad attitude, but that bravado, I don't think that would go well in WWE. I don't know. I have an off feeling that they just wouldn't do well with him. AEW, how do you really judge, though? It's tough sometimes. How do you really judge if somebody's doing well with a performer? Is it championships? Is it merchandise? Is it money? Is it just feature on TV? There's a lot of different ways that we measure this. Like, is Will Ospreay going to be considered a success in AEW if he wins the AEW World Championship? Will he be considered a success as long as he wins a title? Will he be considered a success if he's a top merch seller? And we gauge different levels of success in wrestling, I guess was my point. But so he's announced as the signing, which is cool. Good stuff. But he seemed really angry in this promo. Like, I didn't hear anybody saying a word about him not being able to finish up in New Japan. But he was like, bro, I've been with New Japan for 8 years. Why am I doing a Will Ospreay impression? Because I love how he speaks. I'm not doing it to make fun. I love how he speaks. The bruv thing, I don't even know whether is that just an Australian thing or a UK thing. Because I like it. I like it better than bruv. It sounds like you're barking. Bruv. But But anyway, so he's all like, bruv, been in New Japan since I was 8, or since I was 22, been there for 8 years, been committed. And, I'm just begging you all, be patient and let me finish up. Just, he seemed really aggressive about it. And the crowd kind of reacted almost like, yeah, okay. We kind of figured you were probably still going to work in New Japan, just be here more often. Okay. That's kind of how the reaction felt. It was almost one of confusion. Like, what's the big deal here? Like, we already know he's signed for a match at Wrestle Kingdom. All right, I got some dry skin here. If you're watching live or on YouTube, you see me playing with my eyeballs here. I got some dry skin apparently. But anyway, he's already announced for a match for Wrestle Kingdom. It's him, Moxley, and David Finlay in a 3-way for whatever championship. I say that because I know Finlay destroyed the US UK title. And so now they're gonna bring it back. Oh, word up. I like it. Wally just let me know in the chat what Bruv's all about. It's a London thing, and I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Just saying. But Wally, welcome into the live podcast, buddy. Thanks for clearing up what the Bruv thing was all about. But he was full of Bruvs in his promo. Ospreay is a great talent. I really got my first look at him only earlier this year when I was having an insomnia bout when Wrestle Kingdom was going on, and I watched him and Kenny Omega at like fucking 4:00 in the morning, sipping on some coffee. So it was later than that. It was more like 5:30. I think that was the main event too. But yeah, I remember going and getting coffee. Sitting in my chair right over there with just a single lamp on because I was like, "Oh, I ain't sleeping tonight." And that was a rough day. I didn't end up going to bed until 8 p.m. Much longer stretch than my 23 hours that we just did the other day. But yeah, Ospreay I think is a good get for AEW. Blockbuster signing. I don't know. I say with my friend, I don't think that there is a single blockbuster signing in wrestling right now. The only blockbusters that I think could happen would be is if AEW is able to pull off a stunt like WCW was able to pull off, which would never happen nowadays. But where they're able to sign away a big star in the middle of a big moment. Or say, for example, Roman Reigns is coming up on a contract renewal. And Roman Reigns is still in the middle of stuff. But something about AEW is enticing to him. So he agrees to a contract with them instead of re-signing with WWE. That would be a blockbuster signing. Signing away somebody from the WWE would be a blockbuster signing. Yeah, that's really it. Signing a top star from the competition would be a blockbuster signing. Anything else is just it's a signing. People love to use the term game changer. I haven't seen it yet. I shouldn't say heard. I haven't seen that used yet about Ospreay and how he's going to be a game changer for AEW, because he won't be. Nobody will be. And that's just my opinion. Look at everybody they've signed and look at what the ratings and the attendance does. Now, to their credit, the Forum in LA was pretty full last night. I don't know if it was a total sellout, but I think they did at least a little over 11,000 and they were set up for like a little over 12. That's not bad considering how weak some of their TVs can be. That's a pretty good number. And I go so far as to say I think LA is becoming a market for them, because when they did their TVs at the Forum, they filled it up pretty well. So I think LA is becoming a market for AEW. To be honest, maybe Chicago isn't their home market anymore. For a while there, Chicago was kind of like their home market outside of Jacksonville. Maybe it's LA, because the LA crowd does seem to respond pretty well, and they seem to come out, and they even got some celebrities in there last night. They had Steve O in the crowd. Stephen Amell was in the crowd. They didn't even spotlight everybody, but there was even people that are regulars at WWE events that were in the crowd, like Rick Rubin, the record producer. He was in the crowd. So maybe LA in the Forum is going to be a place that AEW can draw. But my point that I was getting at is with Will Ospreay signing, he's not going to change any games. And if I'm wrong, I'll admit it later on. But look at every signing we've had so far. The ratings might pop a little bit, but everything comes back down eventually. And I don't care what anybody says. They're not competition for WWE. And the SmackDown versus, what was it, Collision was on Friday night? Or Rampage, whatever was on Friday night. $2.2 million versus 251,000. Now, for the non math experts out there, and I'm being a wise ass here, the 0.2 in that 0.2 million is 200,000. So AEW a little over 10% of the WWE audience. Woof. Not even in the same ballpark. So until they sign somebody that can close that kind of gap, nobody's a game changer. They're all good signings. You're building a good team. You're trying. I think they need to get better at storytelling. AEW's got the roster. They need the storytelling across the board. They need the character development. They need the character investment. And they need to keep their dirty laundry off the dirt sheets. The CM Punk drama is done pretty much. The only CM Punk talk nowadays is will he or won't he show up at Survivor Series? And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. I think the brand was damaged a lot in that CM Punk drama. And CM Punk and AEW just wasn't a good fit. At the end of the day, it could have been great. It wasn't great. Moving on. I think as long as AEW avoids having too much drama out in the dirt sheets, I think they can recover some of their public image, but they've got to focus on the storytelling in the shows. Like, some of the stuff is awesome, and then some of the stuff is just crazy. Let's see, what else happened? I spent a lot of time on the whole MJF, Will Ospreay major story points, but the both women's titles changed hands last night. Sky Blue. Julia Hart won the TBS championship. I love me some Julia Hart. Something about Chris Statlander just wasn't clicking this time around. Maybe it's the fact that she became more than an alien, or more, she's not an alien anymore. Something about her just wasn't clicking this time for me. I like Statlander, but her as a champion, I don't know, wasn't jiving, baby. It wasn't jiving for me, baby. I needed to make a little bit of a change up in here. We needed to see if you get a new champion of some kind. Yes, indeed. And then Toni Storm won back the women's championship, I think, making her the first 3-time women's champion. I love the Toni Storm timeless gimmick. I think she made out the best of the outcast situation. I don't even know what Saraya is up to, or I know Ruby Riott. Ruby Soho is in a kind of a romance angle with I don't know, Daddy Magic or the other one, Menard. I don't know. I haven't been watching, but I believe that's what they're doing. And I think Saraya and I think it's Menard, and then Daddy, or is it Daddy Magic? I don't know, the one who's always talking about his nips and yelling and stuff, he's not happy about it. It's the other guy, cool hand dude with the suspenders. Wants him some Ruby. Meanwhile, Toni Storm has moved on to winning the AEW Women's Championship again, is a focal point of the TV shows. Basically playing an old film starlet from, the old Hollywood days. And fucking killing it, man. Like, how WWE missed the boat on Toni Storm, I'll never know, man. AEW found whatever needed to be found in Toni Storm. They found it with her. The short film stuff that I know they've been seeing that they're doing with like the picture-in-picture stuff, some of that's kind of dumb. Like when I tuned into the AEW NXT head-to-head, every commercial break was her doing this short stuff, and I would have rather them air it. So a cool little thing though, when she won, the screen immediately goes back to black and white. Mariah May of Stardom fame, now with AEW, was there with the flowers. I was waiting for Mariah to clock Toni in the face, but I don't know what their dynamic is. It almost seems like Mariah is there to be Toni's like stunt double, like a little Ms. Mizdow situation. But what I was saying to my buddy that I watched the show with, I said it'd be hilarious if Mariah goes and clocks her. And as soon as she clocks her, back to color, like right upon it back into color, like we knock ourselves out of the old film. But I don't know what the dynamic is there. Again, like I've said, and I feel like I got to keep reminding. So people are like, well, why don't you know these things? I don't have live TV. And fucking everybody keeps increasing the price, and I don't, and people be like, oh, well, there's plenty of sites out there. Those sites are a fucking pain in my ass. Okay? Sites are all a pain in my ass. And I don't feel like I really miss much. To be honest with you. Like, I'm able to follow on social media, get my notes. Yeah, I got notes in my coffee order. I was playing with the label a little while ago. I kept looking down. I was making a tent with my sticker. Theo. Hey, Theo. Little treat for the YouTube fans. The Spotify crowd is probably like, what the hell is going on? And I see you Spotify people. You're starting to listen over there. Fucking hey. That's cool stuff. I like it. I dig it. Thank you very much. But yeah, I do fine catching up for the most part. This week was kind of rough though. I didn't really keep up a ton. I jotted down a bunch of stuff last night, just in case I didn't have a ton to say about Full Gear. But I've had plenty. We got about 40 minutes in, not bad. Let's see what else from Full Gear. Oh, that death match. That's the other thing that stands out. I think it might be more. The ladder match was really decent. The TBS title match wasn't so good. I will say I didn't really enjoy it. I like that Julia got the win, but I didn't really enjoy the match itself. Seemed kind of clunky. I don't really care for Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida. There we go. I always mess up her name. I'm sorry. When she gets pushed, it always feels forced. And maybe I haven't been watching AEW since the beginning. Maybe she's like an OG and we just love her always kind of deal. But I don't know. Every time she comes into the scene, it feels forced. So I was kind of out of that match as a result. And Shida lost. So Storm's got the belt. One point in time, it seemed like they were teasing a Shida heel turn. I don't know. Maybe they need to go through with that. But I think part of the problem with the AEW women's roster is there's not a ton of depth in terms of big time over baby faces. Jamie Hayter is injured. Britt Baker's been missing from TV. Sky Blue is an over baby face, but she's not world championship over yet. Same thing with Willow Nightingale. I think AEW needs to put some focus on building up the ladies. We got to build them up. But yes, the ladder match was okay from Full Gear. The death match with Strickland and Hangman Adam Page was fucking brutal. And I I gather that we started so hot because Swerve invaded Hangman's home and there's been a lot of back and forth. I like teasing extreme violence. So I wasn't so much down with going immediately to the staple gun and immediately to this and immediately to that, but eventually they slowed the pace down. That match had to have gone like 45, 50 minutes. And it was brutal. Absolutely brutal. For the first time in I don't know how long. I was grossed out by a spot in a wrestling match. When Hangman Adam Page put himself underneath the leaking wound of Swerve Strickland and drank Strickland's blood and spit it into the air like it was Great Muda Mist. Wow. Found something that made me cringe in wrestling. I was like, oh, brr, brr. Now, I used to do quite violent wrestling. I never drank my opponent's blood. I definitely smeared it on my face, my chest. I've smeared their blood on me. Never drank it. I was surprised that Strickland got the victory though. They went through and did a lot of shit. And listen, wrestling purists are going to shit all over a lot of what happened last night because for what we grew up on, there's certain things that were done that should have been finishes. They weren't finishes. They were just fucking moments. And this death match was definitely one of them. But as I explained to my friend last night, and I think I've shared here a few times, what has made wrestling easier for me to consume as I get older is I've accepted that wrestling is more of a movie than it is a sport. Because of its history as a sport, it's held to different standards than regular TV and movies. If wrestling commits murder on TV, it's a bad thing. But if I tune into Law and Order SVU and we start with a rape murder in the first 30 seconds, that's okay. But wrestling is more of a movie. So these matches, they're not so much matches to me anymore, they're fight scenes. And that's where the argument of too much or too little comes in. Like the MJF storyline last night, I felt like if that was a fight scene in a movie, that fight scene dragged out way too long. This fight scene between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland was the right length of time, in my opinion. Overall, Full Gear left me with confusion at points. I didn't walk away saying, "Wow, I've been missing out by not watching the weekly television." I didn't walk away saying, "Wow, what a waste of 4 hours of my time," because ultimately I spent some time with a friend I haven't seen in a while. He was having a rough week, and he was looking for some company. And a couple of my friends had offered up uh, uh, allowing me to watch Full Gear through their Bleacher Report and sending them some funds for letting me do that. They didn't ask, I offered because, they shelled out the money and I wasn't going to be able to shell out the 50, but I could definitely throw towards somebody's pie. So I definitely did that. But it wasn't, you know, I don't think in the history of AEW shows we're going to say it was a bad show. I think we made some questionable booking calls in terms of our creative. The MJF Adam Cole ambulance, the whole drag out of the whole thing. I just didn't enjoy it. That's all. BYC, welcome into the live podcast. We're talking about the week in wrestling. A live podcast recording be available on YouTube and Spotify a little bit later on today, but we record it live. Typically on Saturdays, but this week it's on a Sunday because of the pay-per-view being last night. Whenever there's a pay-per-view or a PLE on a Saturday, we'll record on a Sunday. So overall, would I say that you need to run out and drop $50 to watch Full Gear if you missed it last night? No. I mean, I'd say maybe try if you can to figure out a way to see the Hangman Adam Page Swerve Strickland match, because it was just brutal. If you like violence, it was gnarly. You could go ahead and look at the 0 Hour had some good matches on it, and that's free on YouTube. So you definitely could go back and watch that if you got an hour to spare. That was a good hour. And a question of why do they do a Saturday? Because that's where the industry is moving, honestly. And AEW made the pivot and moved one of their shows. I think Collision got moved from Saturday over to Friday this time, and then in December when they do World's End, they've already worked it out with TNT that there just won't be a Collision that week. So I think that's just where the wrestling industry is going to move. I think we're going to see a lot more Saturday pay-per-views. WWE pretty much has everything scheduled for Saturdays except for WrestleMania, which is 2 nights. But everything on the calendar, from what I can see coming up, is a Saturday date. So WWE is moving to Saturdays. UFC always runs on Saturdays. So it seems natural that AEW would settle into Saturdays. It looked like they were going to try to move away to Sundays, but who knows? They may just alternate, and just where it makes sense to do a Saturday, they might do a Saturday, and where it makes sense to do a Sunday, they might do a Sunday, based on holidays, like doing Double or Nothing over Memorial Day weekend. Makes sense to do that on a Sunday because most people are not going to be working the next day, in their home market, the domestic market. But I think as a whole, Saturday is just becoming that pay-per-view night, I guess. I guess that's just where the industry is kind of moving with regards to pay-per-views and all that stuff. Oh, all right. Well, we'll be talking wrestling for a little while, so a little bit longer than playing some wrestling. So thanks for being here. But let's get into a couple of news and notes here and wrap up the podcast portion of life here, and then we'll decide what is going to happen next, because I feel like garbage, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not feeling too great today, and so we may just wrap up this podcast and wrap up the overall broadcast for the day and save no mercy for some days off coming up. Maybe we'll throw a Thanksgiving stream together or a Black Friday stream together, because the house is going to be empty starting Wednesday. So lots of time. We're gonna have lots of time on our hands, so maybe we'll pick up there. But we'll see how we're feeling here in a few minutes. Because yeah, I think I'm coming down with a little something, my friends. I think I'm coming down with a little something. So let's see. Let's go through my little news and notes here. We already talked about the signing. Send out some well wishes to poor Rey Mysterio, who just had himself another knee surgery as part of the heel, not even as part of the heel turn. Santos Escobar turned on Rey, leaving the LWO. He's now scheduled to have a match with Carlito at Survivor Series. Came out dressed like Scarface, which was pretty gnarly, and cut a promo that I believe was largely in Spanish and was quite vulgar. basically told Carlito, fuck you, fuck your Apple, fuck your new theme song, which I thought was great because everybody hates the new Carlito theme. I wish he would just go back to the old Jim Johnston track, but what are we going to do? But yeah, sending out well wishes to old Rey Mysterio. It's amazing, though, considering how many knee surgeries he has had over the years, that he's still moving the way he was moving prior to this most recent knee surgery. Doesn't sound like it was anything too major. Almost sounded like he just needed some scope done. So, well wishes to Rey Mysterio, a legend and a goat of the business, a true a goat in the Lucha Libre community for sure, but definitely a goat in wrestling. Let's see what else we got here. Ronda Rousey made a shock debut, making shock debuts everywhere. Indies. She wrestled a indie match, I think, for Revolver out in California. I might have the promotion wrong, but she teamed up with Marina Shafir against Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena and Billy Starks. And then after the match, she got attacked by Athena with the Ring of Honor Championship, which immediately struck me as interesting. I'm like, are they going to do something in Ring of Honor? And then the very next night at the Kia Forum in LA, Ronda Rousey makes her Ring of Honor debut. I didn't catch the media scrum, so I'm going to try and see if I can pull it up real fast here. Because I believe Tony Khan did give a comment on it. So let's see. Last I had seen, she's not signed to a contract. And then he said in the press conference last night that Ronda Rousey's not signed to any contract. He had a great conversation with her, but the appearance came about because there was some unfinished business which had taken place the night before at the indie show. So on Ring of Honor TV this week, Ronda Rousey will be on the show. There could be a couple more appearances, but she's not under contract to Ring of Honor. I liked seeing Ronda get out to the indies and seemed to kind of enjoy herself and did some cool stuff, got dumped on her fucking head. And, it was probably the most impressive she's looked in a wrestling ring in a long time. I didn't see the full match. I just saw some clips, but I looks like she was having fun. Her WWE run just didn't do it for me because I don't feel like they presented her in the way they should have. They should have just had her run with the whole "I'm better than wrestling" thing. She could have been one of the biggest female heels. I said from the start that she should have been pushed as a female Brock Lesnar. Like, I know her UFC run came to pretty much a disastrous end, but she still had that mystique about her coming into wrestling as the baddest woman on the planet, except we didn't really present her as such. But hey, whatever. If she keeps wrestling, doesn't keep wrestling, whatever she does, it doesn't really matter to me. Ronda Rousey, to me, didn't bring anything to the table in wrestling. She didn't take anything away when she left. Like, she didn't make any impact in either direction. And I know a lot of people like to say, oh, she brought more eyes. I don't think so. I think it was the women who were there every day that brought more eyes. Like, yeah, when she first debuted at the Royal Rumble, it got covered by every major news outlet. So yeah, she brought in some eyes, but she wasn't one that kept them there, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Let's see. Bray Wyatt Legacy merchandise finally dropped. I've been waiting for WWE to do this. They released some various eras of shirts, new designs, I do believe. There was a Firefly one. There was a Fiend one. There was the most recent version with the picture of him standing in the ring when an Uncle Howdy video is getting ready to play on the video screen. It says "Let me in" right underneath. Excuse me. That's the one I picked. I didn't really care for the designs on the other ones, but I immediately ordered it because sometimes those collections disappear. So I was like, I've been waiting for them to add something more than the Firefly logo shirt. Since his passing, I figured they would have been all over trying to make money off his passing with some legacy stuff. And I don't say that in a negative way, but when somebody passes away, people get hungry to have pieces of that person if they were a public figure. And I think when Bray Wyatt passed, there wasn't a lot of pieces out there that you could grab, and so it's nice now that we've got some shirts. So I got me a Bray Wyatt Let Me In Legacy Collection shirt. They'll be shipping by mid-December, it said. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, head on over to WWEshop.com. And they're always running some sales. The collection stuff is exempt from the sales, though. So if you, US dollars, if you buy one of those shirts, you can expect to spend about $38 with shipping and all that. So, I mean, if they get a shipping deal going on, maybe bump your order up over 35 or 50 or whatever it is and get free shipping at least. But like if there's a discount code for, 20% off your order, it will take it off of everything but those shirts because it's a special. And this is another reason why I thought maybe the merchandise might be limited run. They called these special event items. So I'm guessing that they're probably going to produce a batch, and then once they produce it, it's gone. I'll be sad. But I got me my Bray Wyatt shirt, and you can get you yours too. I also got me a Bray Wyatt Funko Pop Christmas style Fiend glows in the dark. It's fantastic. Let's see. I think the last piece, I said I had a lot of different news and notes and stuff, but I think we're gonna wrap up with a couple of WWE notes, and then we'll wrap up the podcast here and move along with our day. So let's see. Right on my WWE notes, Survivor Series War Games is taking shape. Drew McIntyre finally turned heel. I think he needed some sort of change in direction. I don't know that he needed a heel turn, but he needed something, a fresh paint of coat, as they say. He's at least a part of Judgment Day for War Games, maybe for the long term. I'm not sure there. I guess we'll see how that plays out. But he joined the Judgment Day for War Games. So it'll be Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio, I'm assuming, unless they're going to go 5-on-5 and include JD McDonough, who's officially a member of the Judgment Day now as well. Then on the other side, we had Asuka joining Damage Control. And if I understand things correctly, Asuka has already staked a claim that she wants to lead Damage Control. I'm not convinced that there isn't some sort of mutiny afoot by Asuka, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane. I think those three are going to eventually fuck up Bayley and Dakota Kai. I think they are going to get fucked up by Asuka and Kairi and Io. Just my prediction there. And then Becky Lynch joined the babyface female team. So we got Damage Control against Bianca, Charlotte, Shotzi, and Becky in the Women's War Games match. So no World Heavyweight title matches at Survivor Series. Roman's not working the event. And Seth is in a War Games match, so he's not defending. So we got no championships involved. We got Shinsuke Nakamura, who's out here calling out to a mystery opponent. And the rumors are that he's going to have that match at Survivor Series. And of course, we're weaving that in to the CM Punk rumors because everybody is insistent that not insistent, but everybody keeps cooking up every little chance they get. Oh, it's a CM Punk tease. It's a CM Punk tease. And, Nakamura's been using the go to sleep. So they think he's teasing for CM Punk to make his return at Survivor Series as the mystery opponent of Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, I'm not covering the CM Punk rumors because I'm invested in them, but why I'm covering them in this episode again is because it's another week, another set of theories, and another set of dirt sheet writers rushing to be like, nope, it's not that. It's not a tease for CM Punk. Let me tell you at this point, I kind of hope he shows up at Survivor Series. I don't think the WWE needs him to. The event's already sold out. Chicago is already maxed out for this event. They don't need CM Punk to show up there, but I kind of fucking hope he does. I kind of hope he does. Just so all of those dudes got to eat shit. I've even seen some of them backtrack and be like, oh, well, if the fan response gets to be too rabid, it could change the internal perception of CM Punk. Yeah, just like all the backwalking they were doing right before he signed with AEW, when they were like, oh, well, CM Punk maybe isn't going to debut, and if he's not, Tony Khan went to a lot of trouble to tease it for nothing. Those fucking dirt sheet writers, they run and then they backpedal. But it's been amusing to watch them go and debunk any theories. Oh, I talked to my sources and they said it has nothing to do with CM Punk. Ah, Jesus Christ, who cares? Let people have their fan theories. Good Lord. I don't care. CM Punk was gone from the business for 8 years. A bunch of new stars were made. I like CM Punk. I've always been a big fan of CM Punk, going back to the summer of Punk in Ring of Honor. That's when he caught my attention. The evil Ring of Honor star that's going to take the Ring of Honor championship to the WWE. That caught my attention. I've been a fan ever since. I can understand why people are not a fan. But as a fan, I'm telling you, I don't care if he comes back. WWE doesn't need him. AEW doesn't even need him because it just causes them problems. And sure, he could go work Impact. He could go work New Japan. Whatever the fuck. I don't care what he does. As long as the man's happy and not harming anybody, I don't care. It's just, I can't wait for Survivor Series to get here next weekend. We're 6 days away as we record this episode, 6 days away from Survivor Series. And while I do not think he's going to show up at Survivor Series, there is a big part of me that hopes he does. A, for the meltdown. B, for all those dirt cheaters that are going to have to eat their own shit afterwards. They're going to have to eat their own shit because they spent all this time debunking. Oh, my sources said this. My sources said that. I'm just going to throw something out here for consumption. Then we'll wrap things up. Right? I think it's a good place. Yeah. I'm going to throw something out for consumption and then we're going to wrap up the podcast. This is the WWE we're talking about. A company that has, on a number of occasions, managed to hide returns, debuts, signings via fucking buses and jets and subways and underground tunnels and fucking potato sacks, whatever they have to do to hide somebody, they figure out a way. Let's just say CM Punk and the WWE have in fact been talking, and CM Punk's non-compete with AEW is running out, or he was able to get it axed, or he never had one, whatever. A story that could be as big as a CM Punk returning to the WWE, especially after the way he left, especially after they fired him on his wedding day, especially after all the contentious comments over the years, lawsuits, suing to take himself out of 2K15, suing the doctor suing him, the podcast, everything that he's said over the years, his tumultuous run as a Fox correspondent when he was basically ripping on WWE programming because that's what he was paid to do. Do you think they're not going to try to protect that one? Like they did their best to protect Sting coming in, which, he was spotted, when Sting came in, it was kind of a surprise, all these things where they're spotted, but they're not confirmed and all that kind of jazz. I'm just like, wouldn't you think that they're going to try to go out of their way to hide that one? Because that would be a major thing, whether you like him or hate him. Him returning to WWE would be a huge story. I don't think it would change their business any. I don't think he would make their business boom any harder than it booms right now. But I think it would be a major story. And I think, knowing WWE, they would try at least maybe to go out of their way to avoid having that one leaked out. Just my feeling, maybe, rumors that, oh, he might be going back there, like kind of like with Jade Cargill. They were able to get she might be going there, but it wasn't confirmed until ESPN confirmed it. That's what I'm saying in that case. CM Punk, like a modern day Ultimate Warrior in terms of how he splits an audience and a locker room. I guess I could agree there. I think his work rate's a little better than the Ultimate Warrior. But in terms of his how he gets a reaction out of fans, where people either loved or hate the Warrior kind of deal, yeah, I definitely could see that. But either way, we'll find out for sure. Saturday, November 25th on Peacock or the WWE Network or pay-per-view. Do they still run pay-per-view? But either way, Saturday, November 25th, 8 p.m., Chicago, Allstate Arena, Survivor Series, War Games. We will find out for sure what the hell is going to happen. Like I said, I think we're going to see Survivor Series come and go, no CM Punk, but there is a part of me that hopes he shows up just to see those dirt sheeters backtrack and eat their fucking words. But on that note, my friends, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of The Week in Wrestling. We'll be back again next weekend. We'll talk Survivor Series and all that good jazz. And then you can catch Dropkicks and Joysticks every Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern. Spotify and YouTube. This will be on Spotify and YouTube. This doesn't have an air day. We record it, I edit it, and I post it. So, whatever. That's what we do there. I guess one last question to answer before we go. Who else had big falling outs and coming back? Bret the Hitman Hart's one that come to mind. 13-year absence, like you said there. Bruno Sammartino. He didn't really make a return, but he agreed to do the Hall of Fame, which after all the years that he had slung mud towards the WWE, that was kind of a big deal. Even though he passed away shortly after, I think this was the start of something getting ready to happen again. The Macho Man Randy Savage, when he returned via Mattel, I think that was going to be the start of something. I think that was going to be the start of Randy Savage in WWE doing something together again. Kind of similar how Warrior doing something with 2K kind of brought them back to the table. Hogan's been back a million times, but in terms of those lengthy absences, Jesse Ventura is another one that comes to mind. That returned after a lengthy absence. He had been gone 10 years, sued to have royalties, and his likeness was muted and removed from all WWE releases, made for some interesting viewing there for the years where they wouldn't play Jesse's voice. So it's certainly not out of the realm. I don't expect CM Punk to show up in Chicago on Saturday, but if he does, I'm going to love the meltdown, and I'm going to love, I'm going to absolutely love the Dirt Cheaters backtracking. But all right, let's wrap that up again. We'll try it again. I like to answer the questions though, so that's that was my choice. That was my choice to cut off the outro and answer the question because I like the questions. I like to answer the questions here. So we're gonna wrap this episode of The Week in Wrestling up. It'll be available Spotify and YouTube if you're watching live, and of course if you're on Spotify and YouTube, well, you know that it was already recorded. So. Yeah, good stuff there. Bonus feed, Dropkicks and Joysticks, which is available every Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern. Video version on YouTube, audio version on Spotify. Good stuff, good times. So until the next time we get together to talk wrestling, have fun out there, stay safe out there, be happy out there, because that's all we can do, my friends. And I will see you next time here on The Week in Wrestling.